Hello, everybody, and welcome to another meeting of Akin Developers. Thank you again for joining us. It's always a pleasure to see all these familiar faces. So today we have Ethan. He specializes in skip tracing, and he used to work for Fortune Builders, and he's an investor as well. So I'm gonna give it to Ethan, and he's gonna introduce himself, say a little bit about himself, and then he will start sharing his presentation and let us know a little bit about himself. Take it away, Ethan.
Perfect. How are we doing, guys? I'm actually going to share my screen right now because my first slide of my presentation actually has some stuff about me. So bear with me here. Okay, can you guys see that? Yeah, okay. So
Yes.
let's see here. Present. All right. Perfect. So on the left there, that's myself and my girlfriend in Hawaii. I have a bunch of family there. I'm actually Hawaiian. You probably would never guess looking at me, right? But I've been in the business for about 4 years now. And like said previously, I worked for Fortune Builders. One of those 4 years, and then 3 years previous to that. So I've been a part of 75 plus wholesales, mostly for my business in Syracuse, New York. I focus on wholesaling, but I still do flips. And what I'll teach tonight is more about the marketing side. So obviously, whatever exit strategy you pick is on you. But my first deal, I actually lost money, right? It was a rehab. I thought I knew what I was doing, and I didn't lose a whole ton. I lost like close to $4,000, but it was a good humbling moment. Actually, the first year I was in business, I only did 2 deals, one rehab where I broke even, and the other one where I lost. In the last 3 years is where I really made that leap with wholesaling, and a lot of it comes down to skip tracing and the marketing strategies that I'm going to share here tonight. I own a skip tracing company. As said before, I'll go a little bit into that, but I like to, I'm going to provide as much value as I possibly can tonight with the marketing strategies. I'm not going to really talk about my company more at the end I will, but I really want to share what's working for me for my marketing because I think it's the most valuable piece of the business. And currently I'm working in 2 markets, right? So what I'm going to teach tonight will, if you have a aspiration to market outside of your current market to virtual wholesale. Tonight I'll teach you kind of like the easiest and the least path of resistance on doing that. Currently right now, obviously I do my hometown, but then I also wholesale in Dayton, Ohio. I know it's kind of a random spot, but I lived in Columbus for a little bit, so I learned a little bit about the Dayton, Ohio market. So let's get into it tonight. For those who don't know what skip tracing is, essentially what skip tracing is getting contact information from said person. I'm going to go over the history of skip tracing in a couple slides here, so I'll kind of explain where it came about, but it wasn't designed for real estate investors. So obviously, as real estate investors, we get contact info, and what can we do from there? We can market to them, we can reach out to them. So an overview on the topic tonight is data and skip tracing. I'm going to explain what makes good data, right? Why skip tracing is so important and exactly what is it, and then what metrics should you be looking for when you're skip tracing. And then volume marketing. I'm going to go over direct mail versus cold calling and texting, and why big quantities, right? When you're skip tracing and when you're doing cold calling and texting, why bigger quantities matter more, and how do you fulfill on those? So it's the next one here. And just to see here, has anyone done any texting or cold calling for their business as far as marketing goes? Cool. I see a couple people. All right, awesome. So right here, just like the step-by-step process. For me, I like to simplify things. So this is kind of just like satire here. Get your list is step 1, right? Just get your list from whatever lead provider that you get it from, and I'll share some lead providers that I use. One that probably most people use here is RealFlow. That's one that I use. I'll talk about them as well. Step 2, skip trace your list. Get your leads, get the numbers for it. Upload your list into a texting or cold calling platform. I'll also provide recommendations on those too. And then call your leads that come in from your marketing, right? Someone texts them, you text them, someone cold calls them, you cold call them, whatever happens, they come in and they become a lead, right? And then from there, you call them to get the property. And then simple, repeat the process. So the history of skip tracing. So skip tracing started with collection companies, right? So anytime that you got a phone call, because you owed a debt or something like that. That's where skip tracing came about. That and private investigators. So a lot of these skip tracing companies that you see around right now, their systems and their business are built around those industries. The reason that I got into it is 3 years ago, I got started with cold calling and texting, and it changed my business. I only did direct mail, bandit signs, and I tried to get pocket listings. I've yet to get a pocket listing. I know it's possible, but I still have yet to do that. But those are the three marketing strategies that I was using, and my business was kind of up and down. When I got into skip tracing, cold calling, and texting, my results probably tripled, I would say. But the thing with that was I was using a skip tracing provider. I didn't know the ins and outs and the intricacies of skip tracing, which I'll explain tonight. So I basically found the first company that I heard about. I paid high prices for skip tracing, 30, 35 cents per lead to get their information. And I had a lot of wrong numbers in those lists, but I was still capitalizing on it simply because I was getting in front of more people. So the way that I got into this is I had a good friend of mine. He went to MIT, super smart, way smarter than me, and he created a software for the skip tracing. And I used it for myself and my business, and then I had people that I knew within the Fortune Builders community that I was close with using it, and it turned into helping them, turned into my full-time job. And I said, okay, I either have to cut them off or I have to make a business out of it. So that's kind of how I got into it. So data and skip tracing, what makes good data? So I'm going to kind of ramble on when it comes to this stuff. So I see some people have notepads and pens. It's awesome. You're going to want to take a lot of notes during this. So what makes good data, right? Everyone's probably heard the term fresh. What does fresh mean in the data world? Fresh to me and what I've experienced through kind of the data world, sort of say, is that fresh is when leads are updated in a data provider weekly or bi-weekly, and monthly is acceptable. So for RealFlow, they're bi-weekly, monthly, right? So they're really good. You want to make sure any lead provider, there's hundreds of them, right? I guarantee everyone's probably talked to or has explored, 5 or plus data providers like RealFlow. When you talk to these companies, you want to make sure when you talk to their rep, you ask that question, right? Because what a lot of data providers will do is they'll get data from a big company and then they'll resell it. And then maybe they resell it to another person who resells it. So you're getting recycled data. The data portion of this business is incredibly important. You want fresh leads. So how much information is provided when you pull leads? So for example, I like to use RealFlow because I think everyone here is somewhat familiar with RealFlow. When you pull leads from RealFlow, there's a ton of info, right? They have the tax assessment, they have the bed bath count. The more information you can get when you pull your leads, the better results you'll get with skip tracing, right? The more accurate the numbers, the more numbers you'll get provided. So you want to make sure that your data provider has a lot of info for your leads. And then also exclusivity. So one thing with RealFlow, for example, the AI leads, right? They're exclusive to a certain extent. Any lead provider that has exclusivity for their leads definitely is a company or a lead provider that you want to target for your specific area. For example, if you look at the good list to use in this slide, AI leads or scored leads, I use RealFlow AI leads. It's one of the leads that I always use. Now there's other AI providers or other scored providers. Some of them are good, some of them are not. But I'm going to talk about the list that I'm currently using in my business right now, why they're working for me, and kind of what you can look in your market, because every market's different. A lot of people think that, hey, I can market to absentee because, you know, someone in Washington, the state, is doing, or someone in California is doing. It's very market specific, and I'll talk about that here right now. So the good list to use is absentee vacant, the combination of the both. That is my number one performing list. And right now, I think a lot of people here are in the DMV area, right? So I don't know how many colleges or universities are around you guys. I'm assuming probably a lot. Um, but right now, 2 of the last 4 deals that we locked up were college rentals. And what we're noticing with our marketing is that these people are freaking out right now because of COVID. They don't know if they're going to have students being able to rent from them, right? And as everyone knows, you know, what's going to happen 2-3 months on the line is kind of unknown with all of this. It could very much happen that 2 months down the line they not necessarily shut down, but something of the sorts where, you know, they're not going to class or they're not in the university area. So we've been able to lock up because a lot of these people, what we've noticed is people who own college rentals, they live off of that income, right? They own like 3 or 4 of them. They live off of that income. They've never had a problem with it until the COVID time. So absentee vacant is a really good one, especially if you're around university areas. Tax delinquency is a list that I use a lot. I live in New York State, right? So we're known for high taxes for everything, especially property taxes. I don't know what it's like for a lot of you guys, but for us, a property in a decent suburb where, you know, the after repair value or the value of the property is like 120,000, you're looking at property taxes of 5,000 a year, all the way up to like 6 to 7. So that's a lot for countrywide data, right? I find that a lot of people in my area are behind on taxes. If you live in an area where your property taxes are somewhat higher than the national average, that's definitely a list you want to target as well. Any AI or scored leads, I know I went over this briefly. With RealFlow, you can filter it by retail, wholesale, and I think the other one is rehab, I believe. So I filter it by wholesale, and it'll have a scored, and then I only market to 600 and above score. Those are the ones that I'll market to. I've marketed to everything before and haven't got a lot of results with anything under 600. But I get a lot of realtor referrals from them too. The AI leads or scored leads, if anyone here is a realtor, by the way, or you at least, perfect, yep. If you're a realtor or you work very closely with a realtor, the marketing strategies I'm sharing tonight are going to create a lot of potential listings. I get way more realtor referrals than I do deals. And I think that's just because obviously pitching the listings easier, right? Than getting something at a discounted rate. But if you're a realtor or you know a realtor close to you, I get 25% referral commission for anything that I pass to my broker. I don't know how everyone else, or if you're close to a broker, I would recommend getting close to a broker so that you can do something like that. Liens and pre-foreclosures. So when it comes to pre-foreclosures, I don't like marketing only to that list. There's companies out there, and you can write this one down. Has anyone heard of PropStream? PropStream? That's a good lead provider. I use them for a lot of stuff too. You want to find people who have a combination of the both potentially, or people who have different types of liens. Good types of liens are someone who has a federal estate lien. I have a buddy of mine that provides leads to me. So if you want to talk to me after the presentation, he provides lien leads. It's a tongue twister, so I have to like pause in between. And then the last lead that type that we use that we have a ton of results with currently right now, we don't. I think that's kind of obvious, but evictions. So this was our number one performing lead before COVID. we got the absolute most motivated people from evictions because what I've noticed is that my market's very rental focused. If anyone lives near like a rental market, these landlords understand investing. They will give away their property at a discount because they think they have to, because they think like us, right? So evictions were a great lead type. Once everything gets back to more of a normal, whatever is normal, whatever normal is going to be, evictions would be a lead type that I would definitely target. The lead provider for evictions that I've used is Foreclosures Daily. Foreclosures Daily. And they actually give them to you weekly, right? So they'll be filed into your county court or your city court, however your area does it, and then the next week you'll get them. So they're super fresh, very fresh leads. Okay. So, and if anyone has questions, I mean, I'm open for questions at the end or whatever. So data and skip tracing continued. Why and what? So like I was saying before, skip tracing is just a process of getting the homeowner's information, number and email. For us specifically, we provide up to 7 phone numbers and up to 2 emails for each person. Personally, I have people that skip trace through us who market to all of the phone numbers. For my business, I don't. I only market to the first 3 numbers. And the first 2 numbers are usually the most accurate as well. And when you get a skip trace lead or list, it will show you what type of number it is too. It'll show you if it's a landline, it'll show you if it's a mobile number. So then you can distinguish what numbers can I text, what numbers can I call. I would recommend calling all the numbers if it's a landline or a mobile number, but obviously you can only text mobiles. And why is skip tracing in this type of marketing the best? It's because it's direct to seller. Right. I'm slightly impatient, I've been told. So I like to get yeses or nos as soon as I possibly can. With direct mail, I would have people calling me like 3 months later, and it was difficult kind of to keep my business as a monthly pace, right? As we all know, like people who've done rehabs, things like that, you almost have to wait until your rehab sells, or it's harder to scale. With this type of marketing, you can literally keep your business to a monthly budget and close, depending, I think most people are in probably title states. I'm in an attorney state, so our closing takes longer. But you can keep your business to a monthly pace at this point. That's what I loved the most. Is like I would get yes or no's right away, and I'd be able to turn quicker. So I had a business that was a lot better of like to look at the numbers, the accounting. It was much more ebb and flow for me. So what metrics should I know? Okay, so I'm gonna try not to get all like techie on this because it's not super techie, but hit rate. Hit rate is how many leads did my provider get numbers for? For example, if you send in a list of 100 leads and your skip tracing provider sends back 95, the hit rate would be 95%. And what qualifies as a hit is 1 phone number. So one thing to look out for when you're looking to use a skip tracing provider is they'll qualify a hit off of getting you a mailing address. They'll qualify a hit is off giving you an email. And so you're paying for those, right? You don't want to have to pay for that. You only want to have to pay if they get you a number and nothing less. So how many numbers or emails? Briefly went over that. We provide up to 7 numbers and then 2 emails. Other companies only provide 1 number or up to 10. From all the experience I have in the last 3 years to marketing to skip trace lists, I would recommend marketing to the first 2 or 3 numbers only. Wrong number percentage and not in service percentage. So these are really important because skip tracing providers can tell you, hey, we gave you a 100% hit rate, right? You sent in 100 leads and we got you 100 numbers. The issue with that is that you need to know the wrong number rate and not in service percentage. So naturally, when you get skip trace lists, there's going to be wrong numbers, right? There's going to be some numbers that are not in service. Typically, our average is 8 to 12% of your list is going to have wrong numbers for the first 2 columns of numbers. And then the not in service percentage will only be 2 to 3%, right? And that will determine your accuracy percentage, which is how many leads did they get me with a number minus the percentage of wrong numbers and not in service numbers, right? So if 10% of the numbers on there are wrong and then 2% of the numbers on there are not in service, it's 12%. If your hit rate is, 95%, 95 minus 12, that's your accuracy. That's the most important number for skip tracing, right? Because there's skip tracing providers out there, they'll give you a hit rate of like 60% and their accuracy is like 30. So you
And
want to make sure that you track that stuff.
can you say that formula one more time, please?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I know it can get a little jumbled. So which part specifically, or just the whole thing?
So the formula part, how you compute, because just so that we write it, and then I guess we'll come back with questions later. But say
Yep.
the formula again for
So
the.
it's hit rate percentage
Mhm.
minus wrong number percentage, and then not in service percentage. So those 2 numbers combined, and then that will equal your accuracy rate.
Okay.
And a good percentage for accuracy is going to be 70 or above. You always want your list to be about 70 or above percentage of accuracy. And then, a question I get a lot that some people may be thinking is like, okay, these numbers are great. How do I track them, right? Do I like put a check mark on a piece of loose leaf every time someone says, hey, you have the wrong number? I actually track these through my dialer system that I have my cold callers on. And I'll just give you guys the dialer systems right now, but I have a slide where I can share it too. The dialer system that I use is called Zen Call, and that's spelled XEN call, Zen Call. So the reason I like Zen Call is because every time the cold caller connects with a person, they can click a button that says wrong number, not in service, not interested, appointment, like turned into a lead. Zen Call allows you to call multiple people all at once, right? So my cold callers, I've 4 of them. They all call 4 people at a time, right? So there's 16 numbers being dialed all at once. And then whoever answers, it goes to the first caller. The second person that answers, it goes to the second caller. The third person answers, it goes to the third caller, and etc. And then all the other lines immediately drop, right? So you can get in touch with a lot of people quickly. So, and then the last metric you want to look at is price per hit. When I was first starting, I was paying 30 cents per hit, which is super high. A good price per hit would be anything 15 cents or lower. For us, we have 2 levels where it's 12 cents or 8 cents per hit, which is usually most likely lower than all the rest of the companies. Okay, so this is one of my favorite slides here because I did a lot of direct mail, and I don't want to say that I threw my money in the trash, but it felt like it. Has anyone here done direct mail or currently do it? Okay, so it's good and it works. It's just it's very niche, right? So I'm going to show you why like I stopped direct mail. I have like 3,000 envelopes behind me that have been there for 6 months, and I have to do something with them. But so direct mail, if you did it yourself, typically it'd be like 50 cents per letter, right? And that's kind of generous. You would have to buy stamps off eBay to get them at a good rate. Forever stamps. You're going to want to buy your envelopes. Do you go with a cheap one or not? Do you write your own letter, right? There's just a lot of variables. If you get it fulfilled, usually it's about $1 or more, right? So to get or to mail 500 leads, it would be about $250 if you did it yourself, and then $500 if you fulfilled it. Now, this is only if you send them one letter, right? What have we been taught? You know, at least 5 touches, right? Right. So if you're going to mail those people 5 times, multiply that number by 5 times, right? That's already somewhat of a hefty marketing budget, depending on, you know, what type of business you're looking to run. So for texting, I use this for texting. Cold calling is a little bit different, but I do it for texting because I think texting is the easiest way to change your marketing from skip tracing or to whatever you're doing now to skip tracing is texting, because it's so cheap that the learning curve, which isn't that steep when you're trying it, is you don't have to invest that much to learn how to optimize texting because it's so cheap. So texting is about a penny and a half or 2 pennies per text, right? Skipping leads to text, let's just say it's 12 cents per hit, right? So for 500 leads, if you were to text them and to skip trace that, it'd be $70 a month for 500 leads, right? A much different price than the direct mail. Now, if you were going to say, okay, I can mail 500 leads and pay a fulfillment company, it would be $500. What could I get out of 500 by texting, right? You could text 3,500 leads for $500. So the way that I like to explain it, and I talked about volume marketing earlier on, is for me, I focus on there's people who need our help, right? In real estate, there's people who are in distressed situations. The easiest way to get in front of them is to get in front of as many people as possible, right? Texting allows you to do that. At first, when I first started, I would just text and only look for the people who were really motivated, because I just didn't have infrastructure in my business at all. You know, I was a one-man army. And once you get the hang of texting, there's a lot of deals in there and also listings as well. But there's going to be people who literally respond if you text them something simple like, are you interested in selling your property, right? There will be people who respond simply just yes, right? Like they want to sell. I've had people text me back their asking price and it worked for us. And I know that sounds crazy and I'm not trying to overhype it at all, because you are going to get a lot of vulgar text back to you. Don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of motivated people, right? You just need to get in front of them. So the response rate on direct mail, right? The average is 1% to 2%. We've all probably have learned that or have heard that. For 500 leads, how many responses do we get? 5 to 10, right? So that's 5 to 10 leads that you need to maximize on. Is it possible to get a deal from that? Absolutely. Is it harder? For sure, right? So the texting average for us, we have a typically around a 15 to 20% response rate, and I've had as high as a 30% too. So 500 leads, that would be 75 or more responses, right? And I would say about half of them are kind of, you know, not so good responses. But you're talking about 37 responses of people who are interested in hearing an offer, right? If you can do that weekly or monthly, you got to extrapolate it for a whole year, right? What's 500 times 12? 6,000. If you get in front of 6,000 people in a year, you should be able to get one deal, right? That's kind of how the math works. I'm a big like numbers guy, as far as if I just throw a bunch of darts at the wall, a couple of them will stick, right? That's kind of how I see texting. If I text as many people as I possibly can, something should stick. So why big quantities? I know I said this before. I'm a big, you know, being with fortune builders and kind of on the other side too. I'm big on the fact that we do help people, and I think you should have that mindset in your head or you'll fail, right? You have to believe that you're helping these sellers, and we are, right? So people need help. Talking to someone about their home isn't easy, but it's definitely not hard. I used to think I had to convince people that they should sell me their house at a discount. And once I switched my mindset of I'm going to help this person no matter what, I found that people dropped their price for me when I didn't talk about price. So the question is not how do I get someone to sell at my price? The question is how do I increase the chances of getting in front of people who need my help, right? And that's why marketing to mass quantities or bigger quantities. And when I say big quantities, people think I'm talking tens of thousands of leads. I'm only talking about a couple thousand, right? Has anyone ever done a mailing campaign where they've mailed to more than 1,000 people here? Anyone? Okay. See, like and the reason for that is probably because of the price of direct mail, right? But for texting, to text 1,000 people is not a lot of money. So that's why I'm saying, like, you just got to increase your chances of getting in front of people. So here's a question that I've heard a lot. Do people have an asking price that matches my offer? Does that actually exist? Yes, 100%. I actually have an example of that, and I'll show you. It's in my slides, where I got a wholesale deal. A woman owned 2 properties right next to each other and made $25,000 off an assignment fee, wholesaling it. And then I have another example where the guy was above the Zestimate, but I got him down almost 50%. But the point I make here is that those people are around, like they exist. Someone who's asking price is what your offer is. I've seen it so many times, not just with myself, but the other people that use us for skip tracing. Does it happen often? No. But is it possible? Absolutely. So here's some examples. This is the only, I'm not really like great at the Prezo or the PowerPoint stuff. This is like the only effect that I put in here. So hopefully it was worth it. So here's an example of the one I was talking about. This is this came from our cold callers. So I don't know what your guys' price points are out there. This estimate's wrong though. This estimate actually, or the ARV is 120. Our median home price is 140 out here. Now we still have like bigger areas, 350, $500,000 homes plus. But really, honestly, markets with higher ARVs, skip tracing and wholesaling and texting and cold calling is actually better for, right? There's not really big margins where I'm at. So he said asking price is 90,000 negotiable. When I'm cold calling, or not me personally, but when I have my cold callers, there's 3 things that I need them to get. Why they want to sell, what their asking price is, and then their time frame. And why their time frame is their time frame. Right? So my cold caller here didn't put why the time frame's ASAP. I would like them to ask that because I want to know why it's ASAP. Right? Sometimes ASAP can mean, oh, it's because you can offer me cash, right? Or sometimes ASAP, like in this scenario, is I had college kids in here, they wrecked my property, and I need money badly for my family. So basically what happened with this one is I got on the phone with the guy. I didn't even talk about price, and he just kept talking himself down. Eventually we got it done for $54,000. I'm currently in the process of rehabbing it. I know earlier in the Zoom call I said I don't really like to rehab, which I don't, but I joint venture with my contractors now. Those are the only rehabs that I do because I noticed that they work a lot harder and they try to stay under budget when you joint venture with them. And I have to manage it less. So I should be looking at about, after the joint venture split, about like a $17,000 profit. We're currently on budget, so that's good, but you know how rehabs go. So this is the one where basically her asking price worked for me. So this came in, and oh, actually, one thing that I didn't mention is our company, Best Skip Tracer, skip trace LLCs and some trusts, right? Some trusts are very hard to skip trace. No one can really skip trace those, but some trusts we do. This lead was actually in a family trust. And the biggest advantage that I have over my competition in my market is I'm marketing to people who own their property in LLCs and trusts. They never get hit up for the most part. I'm usually the first person they ever talk to about selling their property. And I meet cash buyers like that too. I meet a ton of cash buyers because they're sellers, but they're also cash buyers, right? So if you guys have an area that's like really rental focused and you skip trace those owners, and they're under LLCs, you're going to get in touch with a lot of rental owners. And those sometimes are the most motivated people, which the last one that I just showed you, the example, that was a rental owner. And then this one was a rental owner too. So she was asking for 60,000. The ARV is like 115, but it's in an area where 5 minutes away, we're getting the second biggest Amazon warehouse built in. So a lot of people are just buying everything in this area. It's called Liverpool, New York, and they're banking on appreciation. So I was able to they're side by side, get both of them for 60, assigned it 2 days later for 72.5 each. But the reason I show this one is because this woman was super nice and she owns a lot of properties, and I learned some things from her honestly about the market, because I was just curious, like, what is her investing criteria? But I show this because the asking price was 60,000, and that's exactly what I could offer. I honestly could offer more, but it just goes to show if you get in front of enough people, these things will pop up. It's just a matter of time and also strategically picking the right data in the right areas. So how do I fulfill? This is like another kind of like satire thing for me, is I just like to be simple with it. I've noticed that when I dive into the weeds or the details of things, I lose track, right? I'm not a huge CRM guy. Like, I don't know how to optimize RealFlow to its full capacity, and I don't want to learn that because I'll stress myself out. So, get your leads from your cold calling platforms or texting platforms and put them into your CRM. For me, my CRM was my email. I made an email folder that just said the leads in my Gmail, and then I would just put the leads in there. And I would type myself up an email, and I'd send it to myself, and I'd put it into there. So like, you can really makeshift this process. And that's kind of the biggest thing I try to stress is like, marketing is the most important thing, right? Getting started, texting, getting the cold calling, that's the most important thing. If you don't have an infrastructure built for your leads yet, that doesn't matter. As long as you can at least put them in one area, even if it's on paper. I know some people that have started by putting their leads on paper. But yeah, just upload it into your CRM or put it somewhere. Go through your seller lead sheet. And I always stress this: be caring and helpful, right? I've noticed when I stopped trying to be a salesman is when I made more quote unquote sales, right? Especially for listings. And I'm going to stress that again. If you are an agent or someone who's an agent, you can get a ton of listings from these leads because these people are willing to sell. And the way I approach it is like, okay, I know that their property is in good condition. I know they want somewhere near retail value. I'm basically going to tell them, hey, you don't want my cash offer. Like, all these people lowball out here, don't they? Yeah, they do. Yeah. Have you thought about listing your property? Right. And then I'll pitch them on a listing. It's gotten to the point where my realtor referrals pay for my marketing now monthly. And then everything else is, essentially profit. Right. And then just get the property under contract. For me, I do a lot of virtual stuff. Sometimes I won't even go to the property. I use DocuSign. I probably everyone here has like a variation of something that they use as far as like virtual or electronic signing. And I use the Mastery contract as well. Use the same exact one. So got the same resources as you guys. So here's some resources. Obviously, for us, it's bestskiptracer.com. A texting platform that I use is Roar, ROOR. I actually know one of the owners, Ryan, so I can make you guys an introduction, and he can like take time and actually show you how the system works. He'll do like a web share and teach you like how to run it. It's pretty easy to use. I know some people that use something called the Lead Sherpa as well. I personally have never used it. I don't feel comfortable recommending stuff that I've never used, but I know some credible people that do use it. So you're more than welcome to explore that one as well. The reason I like Roar is because Roar doesn't have a monthly subscription tied to it. You only pay for text messages. And I also have a texting script that I'll send, and then you guys can send it to the group, probably. So after this, I'll send it out. And then cold calling. If you're interested in cold calling, I just will let you know this, is that cold calling is slightly more expensive than texting. Texting is super cheap. So I always recommend like get into texting. But if you want to do cold calling, that's where I get 60% or so of my deals. Most of them come through cold calling, and then the next is texting. You can email success@bestskiptracer.com, and I can hook you up with the company that I use. They're $6 an hour cold callers, $6 an hour. So I only use them 30 hours a week. A lot of people like the 40 hours a week. I only do 30 hours a week for 4 of them. So they're $6 an hour. If you want to do the combination of cold calling, texting, I would recommend it. But if you're trying to be budget conscious, 100% texting is the way to go. And then this is the flyer. I think this is already sent out. This is kind of how our pricing breaks down. If you're a free member, we do 20 cents per lead for Skiptracing. If you're a premium member, which means it's only $9 a month, it's 12 cents per lead. And then we have our VIP membership, which is $97 a month, and it's 8 cents per lead. But the benefit is that we only charge you 92% of the results, right? So our typical hit rate is about 95%. We just charge people 92% flat, and anything above that for hit rate is technically like you get that for free, essentially. So I can open up for questions now. I'm assuming there's probably a lot based on texting, cold calling. I'll answer anything specifically to texting, cold calling, marketing, skip tracing, area specific, leads, data, any questions that you guys might have.
I do have a quick question before I give it back to the board, but thank you so much for sharing, Ethan. This is very informative, and yeah, it's good. You know, you've been in the business, you were able to leverage and research. So thank you for the information. I appreciate that. One quick thing, I see you use Zillow a lot. Zestimates are just horrible.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you ever use Redfin?
Yes. So the cold callers that I use, they can, there's so many things, right? There's Total View, Redfin, Realtor.com, Zillow. They can take any of those and put them into their notes and give you like the Zestimate or whatever that is for all of those.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Remax agent. I'm not a big fan of Redfin, but I always tell everybody Redfin has a very good website, and they have it down to the neighborhoods. So, you know, their website, you know, they run circles around the rest of us for that. So, you know, I have no problem admitting that. But and Zillow, yeah. Mm-mm.
For sure. Yeah.
The accuracy is just the worst.
It is pretty bad. And honestly, part of the reason that I have it in there when my cold callers send the lead is because in my area, at least, a lot of people look at Zillow.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
a
they
lot of
do.
like homeowners and stuff. So they'll base their price off of it sometimes. So I use it just like as a quick measuring stick.
Okay, absolutely. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna open it up to everybody else. I guess you guys know how to do it. You guys are so good. So I think you guys start one person at a time. Maurice, you're on.
Oh, yes, I'm on. Well, I actually, the questions that I had was really about the cold calling, which you answered, and I'm gonna follow up with you regarding that company for the cold calling. But I'm good. I'm just absorbing it. Great presentation. I enjoyed it a lot. Got a lot from it.
Thank you, man.
Hi, I'm Lolita. I have a quick question about, you mentioned the AI leads and the scores. I kind of didn't understand the score part.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I didn't explain that very well. So how AI leads work is there's like 90 plus line items of information that this AI software aggregates to determine the likelihood of that person selling in this moment in time. So they take like the year built, the neighborhood, the bed bath count, what the siding is made of, when it last sold, what it sold for, what's the property taxes. It takes all of that data, and then it also takes in like what day of the month it is. It's pretty high up there, high level. And then it will give you a score out of RealFlow does, out of 1,000. And the higher to 1,000, the more likely they're going to sell.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Ethan, this is Isabel. We spoke earlier today. Their presentation
Yes.
is right on point.
Thank you. I'll do the promo code for you too. If you guys can use a promo code on our website as well, and we'll give you 10 cents Skiptracing for your first list. And use the promo code. It's Akin, right? AKIN.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah. Use that.
Great.
We talked about that this morning.
Yeah, you gave me the idea.
Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you. So, Ethan, I had a question about the AI. The last time I spoke with the RealFlow, I think it's like extra fees, right? It's not free. Like they had like this bundle that you can either buy them as you go or just buy almost for life, or I didn't quite understand.
Yeah, I think they've changed the pricing. Honestly, I only have it for 2 of my zip codes. The 2 zip
Okay.
codes that I want that are very rental heavy. There's also I don't know if I want to say this while it's recording.
Want me to pause it? I can.
Yeah, real quick.
Hang on a second. Alrighty. Anybody else has any other questions?
How long did it take you to train your cold callers, and did you give them scripts that you were using?
That's a very good question. So 0 minutes, and I didn't give them a script. The company that I use is really good, and they train their people. They're out of the Philippines, but their English is really good. And I got the recommendation from a buddy of mine who does like 120 wholesales a month, or not a month. Wow, that'd be ridiculous. A year in Florida, in South Florida. And I've never looked back. I've went to Upwork before at Fiverr, and I've used VAs there, and it's just like it's a waste of time. Training them. This company, they have their own script, and you don't have to train them, and they're really good. And then they talk to you communication through Skype. So like you can message them on Skype and they'll message you back in a second, and they'll be like, hey, how are the leads? Is there anything we should change? Is there anything that's wrong with them? And I'll be like, hey, it just seems like a lot of them are, fence sitters right now. And they'll say, okay, we'll pull our callers in for training. They have like over 100 cold callers in their like warehouse building that they have. They're pretty legit. So the answer is, I know I was long-winded there, but 0 minutes is how many times I've trained them.
Thanks.
Yep.
And Aaron, I can add, we did hire a VA at the beginning when we're doing the cold calling. It takes time to train them, like Ethan is saying. But then the other thing is, I didn't know how to make sure that the quality was there, because I couldn't be there all the time to check on the calls, or I didn't know how to accurately know the amount of work that was done, all that. So we switch it also to just, pay for the ones that are already trained, and also the ones that actually have a supervisor. So my communication now is with the supervisor, and not with the different cold callers. For me, at least, it makes it more easier to manage.
Okay, yeah, because time is a big thing.
Yes, yes.
And so, Ethan, when you have your skip tracers and you guys, you get the information, then they just give it to you and you do the follow-up with the owners to make the appointments if you go and or make the offer.
Yeah, exactly. So they'll talk to, it's like a 5 to 10 minute conversation that the cold callers will have, and then they'll send the lead to me. I use Podio for CRM. I don't know if anyone here uses Podio, Podio.
We have another wholesaler that was online a few weeks back, and he uses Podio as well.
He does too. Yeah.
And he showed us how he puts the reminders so he can remember to call and follow up with the. Do you do any type of project management software and CRM? For people that don't know, CRM is the customer service management. Like Podio, they let you kind of keep track of your customers and making callbacks, but including a project management side of it, because we've been looking at it because now we're having a lot more projects. So we want to be more efficient, and we wanted to have one software that would help us track and manage our rehabs, but at the same time be connected so that when we make the phone calls and we have something that goes through, then we convert that lead into a project directly using templates. Is that something you do, or?
So Podio is so customizable that I know a lot of people who do their project management through it. Me personally, rehabs and me, you know, I've just tried to simplify it where it's like, hey, Mr. Contractor, let's JV and you do everything. Because I just don't like the project management part of it. I know JP, obviously he was talking to your group recently. He uses RealFlow for all that, and he has a super advanced system for it. If you guys know John Paul, obviously he's very intricate when it comes to those things. So I know for everyone I know, it's Podio or RealFlow that they use. Most of them use Podio, and you can customize it. It's hard to explain. If you want, after questions, I can screen share my Podio.
Sure.
If you want, and we can look at that.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
Hey, Ethan, this is Sandra. Would you mind sharing what company you use in the Philippines for cold calling?
Yeah, if you, I don't want to put their name out there right now while the screen is being recorded. But if you guys, because they only communicate through Skype, so I would have to connect you guys through Skype. So here, you guys can take my personal email and just email me. And we can chit chat too over the phone.
That's not the email from the Ethan at Best Skip Tracer. You want, it's another email?
No, you can use that one. That's fine. I just know I had success at Best Skip Tracer, and that just goes to my company. But if you just do Ethan at Best Skip Tracer, it'll go straight to me.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Sandra.
So another question about your company. So how many people, are you still a one-man show, or did you hire like your acquisition specialist?
Great question. So I have a transaction coordinator. I have a marketing department. I have a realtor who's my girlfriend, so that helps. And I do have a project manager, believe it or not, and I pay him 10 to 15% of the property. Even on my joint ventures, I still want someone else to manage the little parts of the joint ventures. As far as acquisitions, I have a follow-up manager so I do the acquisitions in my business. It's the last thing that I'm going to give up. And I'm having a hard time giving it up. But I have a follow-up manager who in my Podio will call all of the people that I didn't get in contact with. And I pay them a flat rate of $500 a week.
Okay.
And then commission on anything that they follow up with and re-engage the lead. And if it turns into something, it'll be like 5 to 10% of like the deal. But if you guys are looking to hire like an acquisition person, the typical rate for that is 10 to 15% commission only of the profits. Some people put a $2,000 base in there too.
Right, but the acquisition specialist is the person that's going to call they're going to go visit the property, negotiate.
Yeah.
That you come out of the equation. So it's not making the appointment. It's actually going, interacting with the sellers, negotiating on the price and acquiring it. And then you can decide whether you're going to wholesale it or you're going to keep it to flip. So
Exactly.
So you are paying them for their time, because some of these sellers, you would go, we had one, it took what, 4 or 5 months just to get them. There's another one we've been working on for 2 months. We're still trying to get this lady to sit down and commit. Well, they take time. So it's definitely worth, paying them for their time.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, they'll get it under contract too. I do have someone that I use for dispositions as well. So like marketing it out to my buyers. But I have like VIP buyers. I have like 3 people that buy everything at this point. So I don't need that dispositions person anymore. But people do that too. And what they'll give their dispositions person is also 5 to 10% of the profit. That's if you really want to automate this.
Right.
And do nothing.
Well,
How did you find those buyers?
Good question. Actually, one of the ways was I pulled a list from the MLS of all cash transactions and skip traced it and then text messaged it to all of them. I said, hey, saw that you bought, are you buying other properties as well?
Awesome, thanks.
Yep. Oh, another lead provider I forgot to mention, they're very cheap, is List Source. People have probably heard of them. They're just a place where you can get a lot of leads for cheap. A lot of like absentee stuff.
Are they fresh still? Like, are they fresh enough that you'll have a good hit rate with it from Lead Source?
They're like those bananas that they're a little bit too brown. And you're like, so like they're just past their fresh point. So.
Okay.
So you focus with lead.
The minute you get them, you got to call them right away or just forget it.
Yeah, exactly. They're more like what the term is like blanket list, where it's like, okay, I know it's really cheap to get these leads. Basically, I'm going to market to all of them and hope that one is a deal. And I don't do those. I used to market to blanket lists. I don't do it anymore just because it's so time consuming. It's very, very time consuming.
So you focus on RealFlow and the AI RealFlow leads mostly?
Yeah. And then absentee vacant, like the combination of those both. The evictions were a big one for us. And then also the liens, properties that have multiple liens on them.
So you can search on List Source for those. Are you saying those are old too? It's better to go with just stick with RealFlow for those?
No, those are still going to be decent. They're just, I would just say temper your results on them a little bit less than what you would with other lead providers. Like I like PropStream a lot. They're pretty good.
Got it, thanks.
Yeah, and they're relatively cheap too. If you guys do use RealFlow, one thing that I learned is only market to people who they bought the property at least 5 to 6 years ago or later. I won't market, I try not to at least. I won't market to anyone who bought their property in the last 3 years.
Right. And Ethan, are you with your system, because I'm MLS and I know Bright MLS, we became Bright MLS because they started to include the northern states. They're trying to make it a national database at some point. So little by little, they've been negotiating. What's your MLS? What is it called?
It's Core Logic, I believe.
Oh, it's Core. Oh, so okay. So Core Logic. Okay. They're the one that do a lot of they're the one that feed us the data, and they do a lot of the I guess the background and some of the credit stuff also for people. They're pretty big.
Yeah, Core Logic is amazing for data. Yeah, it's Core Logic. Core Logic and Matrix, that's what it's called.
Core Logic and Matrix. Okay, because we were Matrix, we're Bright MLS now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you guys pull some of these lists with your girlfriend? She's able to give you some of these lists? Because I'm asking because for us, they created this side marketing tool that's called Remine, and I can get access to people that have been in the house more than 20 years and people that have been, upside down, LLCs, corporate, and they do have some of the information, not all of it, and sometimes it's not always accurate. So are you able to pull some of the information there too?
Yeah, so I do pull some stuff from the MLS. I also will pull, this is actually something, I'm happy that you asked this question because I totally forgot, is I will pull expired listings too.
Yep, that was gonna be my next thing. Yeah. Expired, how far back do you go? Because you have, and Mickey and I talked about that many times, the expired is always somebody that at some point needed to sell, but you can even go up to 3 years in some cases. They still have the house, they're struggling. Now they're even struggling more than before, even if they try to refinance or do something with it. So how far do you go back on your expired?
It's actually really funny that you asked this question because I was on the phone with a seller like right before I got onto this, and it wasn't an expired list that I was marketing to, but it was an expired listing in 2016.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah. So, and I've come across those a lot, and they're usually like 2012, 2016, 2017. Usually the expired listings that are most recent aren't as motivated. But the ones that are like a couple of years ago, they definitely are. I know someone who specifically, I don't know how Airbnb is for you guys. It sucks in my market. I wish it was better. But I know a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll skip trace all the expired listings for like the last month, and then they'll pitch that owner on Airbnb. And like, oh, sorry, Maurice, what was that?
What is the expired list? I don't know. What is that?
Oh, yeah.
The expired listing on the system for MLS, when somebody wants to sell a house and an agent listed on the market and it doesn't sell, then it becomes expired. It automatically expires in the system. So a lot of agents actually try to pick them up. It's like a big business for listing agent. People that only do listings, they go and call these agents, and there's Redex that's very big on trying to sell that data for expired listing. So that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's
yeah, that's a good lead. I haven't marketed to that list in a while, actually. Now that you brought that to my attention, I'm probably going to pull another one of it.
cool.
Because I'm seeing a lot of things that were listed years ago that people are trying to sell. And that's the thing, like a lot of these people you reach out to with skip tracing, texting, cold calling, they want to sell, but they kind of like procrastinate it for like a year, 2 years until someone gets in front of them on a cold call or text, and then they finally like re-engage the idea. And it's like it was like a sleeping lion. Like it didn't seem like they're motivated, but until you get in front of them, and now they're like motivated out of nowhere. And that's what I experienced with this woman beforehand. So yeah, that was a really good question.
I have another question. Can I follow up with another question that you had, Ethan? Another comment. You said you don't buy properties off of RealFlow that are, or you don't look at properties that are 5 to 6 years old. Why that? Why not the like less time than that?
So usually most of them buy with mortgages, right? so they don't have a lot of equity in the property. So we usually can't buy it at a discounted enough rate unless they buy it with like conventional financing and they put a 25% down payment down. And for some reason, they're willing to only take what they owe on the mortgage. Other than that, most of our marketing was wasted on people who bought their property in the last 2 years, unless they bought it for cash. So I try not to market to people who bought their property within the last 5 years.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. Those are good listings sometimes though, because people move into houses and then they sell like 3 years later. But I just don't do it anymore. If you were looking for listings, I would definitely still market to those people.
Hey, Ethan, it's Sandra again. I have a couple technical question on how, so back to the list. You said you pulled an MLS list of all the cash transactions. How do you pull that MLS list? Do you need a realtor for that? And the second one is, how do you pull listings from the MLS for expired listings, or is that also with a realtor?
Also with a realtor. I luckily have MLS access because of my girlfriend being an agent. List Source though does have cash buyer lists, and they're decent. I've marketed to those too. Most of them are the same ones as the MLS because I'm pretty sure that's where they're pulling the data. As far as the expired listings list, I'm not sure if there's a company that provides it. There probably is. Personally, I've just pulled it from the MLS, but you can most likely get an agent to do that for you.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
And I did want to talk about that referral. And Mickey, it's funny that you said the 25% because Mickey, we were talking about that because we are Akin Group, but I am a real estate agent, and we are still, it's 3 companies combined. So it's the same thing, the same principle. The plan is with some of the things we have, we've been going to talk to some of these sellers, and that's the same thing. I will give a referral. And actually, I have a member of our group that called me just before this call with a lead, and he's like, oh, it's all yours. I was like, no, you get a referral for sending me a lead. It's like, I'm like, don't just leave money on the table. He was like, oh, just take it. I was like, no, Robert, I'm going to pay you a 25% referral fee because there's always a fee that you have to pay. I mean, he's doing his marketing. I'll give him back. Akin is doing marketing. If I can benefit as an agent, I'm going to pay because that's money that Akin's going to use to do more marketing. So everybody benefits. So like to all of you guys, if you have leads that you're sending to an agent, you have an LLC, they can send you a 25% referral fee as long as it's in an LLC. It cannot be paid to an individual. That's illegal. But if it's paid to another company, especially since your companies are real estate companies, you can get a 25% referral fee. So make sure you get your referral fee to help pay for the marketing, and tell them, you know, I'll send you a lead, give me the 25% referral fee. That's like usually what we do. That's like the flat fee. And then say, and I'll give you more leads. So they'll definitely don't think twice about it. Because as an agent, the biggest part of your business is to find a client. If you have a client, you're good, you know, whether it works out or not. But finding clients is crucial for a real estate agent.
Yep. So that's a big part of our business right now. Like I refer 4 to 6 listings a month.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of them when you do this type of marketing. You get a lot of motivated people who they kept up with their property.
So Ethan, if someone is starting, what would you say would be a good budget to allocate to this type of marketing?
So I would start with texting. And I would do probably 1,000 leads. And that would be, how much would that be? That'd probably be like text plus Skiptracing. Let's say you text them twice, like 15 cents per, so 15% of 1,000, $150. I mean, it depends on someone's budget. If their budget's $250, And then I would just, if you have like real flow, I would subscribe to a lead provider where you can just pull leads for free when you're first starting. And then just like really filter down those leads, right? Like sale dates, specific areas. And PropStream does a really good job at that too. I like PropStream a lot.
We can do that also with Remind. I can kind of tailor it a little bit with Remind as well, and then we can get that info. But
Nice.
PropStream, yeah. I guess we'll look into PropStream as well to see what they offer and compare with what I have access to. But I think our Bright MLS started now. Before it was a Realty Track, or it was something like that. That
Yeah.
it used to be that most investors used to use. And I don't know if MLS bought them, but now it's called Remind, and it's the same data. So at first we had to pay for it. Now it's free. I don't know why they decided to do that. But yeah, Mickey, I will definitely want to compare between PropStream and Remind and see the difference and how effective they are for our area. That would be good to look at.
Definitely.
So another question for me. So I don't know if I'm taking up everybody's time, but
go ahead.
I haven't actually started my RealFlow trial yet. I'm guessing that it offers free leads it includes leads. Right now I'm just using ListSource and then skip tracing the list that I get. What would you recommend to start with better lists? Would you recommend RealFlow or PropStream or another service?
That's a good question. If you have your free trial, probably RealFlow because of that. RealFlow, I like the combination of adding absentee and vacant together and then narrowing down the sale date. Those are usually good. But PropStream, there's just so much customization you can do with your leads. So if you know your market decently well, the area, the type of people that buy like rental properties, things like that, you can narrow down your leads to like a very niche list in PropStream. So I would say if you have a free trial, do RealFlow. But explore PropStream because PropStream is relatively cheap as well.
So if I may say, Sandra, we used our RealFlow free trial and we were also paying for it for a few months. And I was getting about the same data as the Bright MLS that I have access to. So you can customize and really tailor it to a specific list. It gives you that option. If you have the free trial, like, I'm definitely with Ethan. I would say try it out and see a little bit what's in there and compare with what you have. And then that will kind of give you an idea of if you're missing anything, what you're missing, so that then when you decided which software you want to use, then you know exactly what works and what doesn't work. And then I would use his guidance. Mickey, when we did our list for we used deal dialers. We tried them out as well. We send them about over 9,000 names, and they've been feeding us leads, and we're having a hard time keeping up with the leads, which we're actually going to start giving to some of our cohorts that are even on the calls to help with the following up. So when you send it to them, and remember you and I sat down and we had like different things that we put together. Do you want to explain to them how we summarized our lists?
Oh, so there's different way of doing your list, right? Either on RealFlow, what we did is we targeted Baltimore, and then for each region we did like Ethan was saying, the absentee vacant is always the number one, and then you go, foreclosure and late notice, pre-foreclosures. Then we also did a high equity list. I don't remember the years, but we did put years into that. So for each region, so we did Baltimore City, Baltimore County, then we did PG County, Montgomery County, Northern Virginia, we did DC, and so
Howard County as well.
yes, Howard County as well. It just takes time to compile all of your lists, and then after that, they were ready to upload into, at least with Deal Dollars, it was very easy to just send them our listing. And yes, so that was it.
And
But you just have to make sure to have the right criterias,
right.
so that you have a better quality of list.
And
so you have to combine. That's what I mean. Yeah.
I did the Real Flow postcard marketing and the letter marketing, and that was like a hit or miss. So I did like 3 campaigns. It wasn't too expensive. I kind of kept it like around 230-ish. I didn't want to spend more than that. And I was doing that like for 4 months in a row. I would spend about 230-ish on different lists. And I did get one person that called me that said they're definitely not selling anytime soon. But I was like, okay, well, somebody is getting my postcards, so it was good. And then the other person did call me. I went to see the house, but what they wanted didn't make sense for what the house was worth, so we couldn't turn it into a deal. But with those also, the list, like if you do any type of postcard with RealFlow, be mindful that you have to double check every single address, because I had a lot of addresses that were wrong and I had to remove them after the fact. So I realized after I mailed it. So you really have to go through the data and make sure your data is correct as well. So that's just, lesson learned from using the postcards. But I think the best result has been when Mickey hand wrote letters and left it. When we're driving, she has a pile of letters that she had the kids help her write. And, we drive around neighborhoods and we leave the letters. And she's one of the people we're negotiating with. He told her specifically, I remember your letters. I read them. So, but, it takes time with these type of sellers. But because he remembered her, he called her. And he didn't call the other person that we called, 2 of us called, but he called her because he remembered her letter. So all that footwork is not in vain, but I guess if you're organized the right way, you can make things go your way.
So you pre-write letters and then address them before
No.
you drop
This is more, I don't do it often. And I'm actually very excited to try the texting, because I did a bit of texting, and with the Ethem system, I am excited to go back to texting. And so the way I do my direct marketing is that it's driving for dollars. It's just specific. So it's very targeted to the area where our rehabs are. So I see often those properties. And then I will sometimes knock on the doors, deposit that postcard. So most of the time it's just like a thank you note, but that doesn't say thank you on it. And then I will write, we're working in your neighborhood and we're looking to buy, are you interested in selling your properties? We know we have homeowners, and then I'll leave my card in it. And that's how I do it. I try to have at least 4 touches. Usually by the 3rd time, they know you, they kind of expect. And then your card is very, very different than another card, because this one is like specially for them. I know some other students that use, like there's I don't remember the name of that program, but that app where you take the picture of the house and then you're able to put it as a postcard.
Right.
Have you ever used that, Ethan?
No, I haven't, but I know people that have.
Yes.
Deal Machine, right?
Deal Machine.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that's it, Deal Machine. So I've never used that, but I think the direct mail, the reason why it's so redundant, it's because even at my house here, I will receive once or twice a week letters, and they're all the same. So I don't even open the envelope. So I think the main thing is you have to get the person to open it. You have to try to catch their attention. While a text message, you know, how many times someone looks at their phone? And a text message is just so much closer to the people, and it's not threatening because they actually make the decision to write back to you. So they initiate that contact. I really love that aspect of text messaging.
All right, everybody, it's 8. We usually try to keep it for an hour and a half. If you guys have any additional questions, I'm seeing Ethan, if I have another call. Okay, that's fine. I don't see any additional question. Ethan, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I definitely want to talk to you about maybe coming on again to speak with us later on at another time. And then I'm pretty sure we'll have additional questions and people can share what's been working or not working. I would definitely love to have anybody that's going to be working with you come back when you come back and tell us about the experience working with your company. So, you know, we really appreciate your time once again. I will share the presentation. Ethan sent it to me. I'll share it. Like I said, just be patient with us. When we have everything set up, you'll have everything there. And Ethan, I'll send you the link as well. You know, you're more than welcome to attend our webinar, our Zoom calls if you have time. We know you guys are all busy. And again, thank you everybody for spending the evening on Wednesday with us. In 2 weeks, we're gonna have Nita. She is she's part of a whole title company. So we wanted to invite somebody that on the title, we are a title company, Maryland, DC, Virginia. You guys in New Jersey, New York, you're attorney states. So basically, right, Ethan?
Yeah, attorney.
So for us, it's a title company. They have a lawyer and staff, and the title company puts all the paperwork together for the sale of the transaction. They check the title, make sure everything is clear. Up north, they use lawyers to do that. I think you guys are also more expensive when it's a lawyer, right?
Yeah, more expensive, and we take a longer time.
Yep. So we're quicker. They can pretty much close in like 2 weeks. So up here. So we're gonna have Nita. She's gonna come, and I was asking her to explain a little bit what happens when you're going through the title process. So that's gonna be in 2 weeks. And 2 weeks later, we're gonna have Bill Kenny. He is a fellow real estate agent, but he also is an avid investor, and he does a lot of flips in Hagerstown, Maryland, which is on the side of behind Frederick, Maryland. And he also does multi-units investing. So he's going to talk to us about what he does over there. So we have a few people lined up for you guys. So it'll be interesting every 2 weeks. And Erin is also conducting some meetings as well. So Erin will make sure to send her emails so that way we can provide more information to everybody. So thank you again for attending, and then we'll talk to you guys very soon. See you soon. Thank you, Ethan.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.